UFOs. The Doll's Head Trail, May Haley Lancaster, the Georgia Guidestones, Fort Mountain, Bigfoot, Georgia, wondrous and strange. Due to time and budget limitations, as well as restrictions caused by the current pandemic, some visual substitutions were used in this video. This is noted whenever appropriate. Strange things. There is a common misconception that Bigfoot is seen only in the forest of the Pacific Northwest and Canada. UFOs are associated with Roswell, New Mexico, and Area 51. The most famous lake monster in the world makes its home at Loch Ness in Scotland. However, if you're looking for the supernatural, you need look no further than your own backyard. Strange things have been seen in Georgia for millennia. The Altamaha. The Altamaha River flows 137 miles from Lumber City, Georgia, and empties into the Atlantic Ocean near Darien, south of Savannah. The Altamaha is the name of the strange beast that inhabits the river's depths. The Altamaha is between 20 to 30 feet in length, with 2 or more humps along its back. Native American legends told of an immense snake-like creature. However, more recent sightings of Alti, as it is affectionately known, depict a creature more similar to a plesiosaur. He has only 2 front flippers rather than the usual 4. The Loch Ness Monster is also depicted as a supposedly extinct dinosaur. Early settlers of Darien, Georgia, originated from Inverness, Scotland, home to Nessie. An interesting coincidence, don't you think? Modern recorded sightings of Alti date from the 1920s. The most recent sighting occurred in 2010 and was caught on video by an amateur photographer. The video can be seen on YouTube. It shows a large creature swimming and splashing in a channel at the Fort George historic site. So, what do you think of the video, Frangipani? No, I disagree. I don't think the video shows 2 otters playing Marco Polo in the water. But that's a good point. Most cryptids, UFOs, and even ghosts are seen in quick, fleeting glimpses. The limits of human perception and strong emotion can lead to misidentification and the assumption of supernatural explanations.
However, for one cryptid, the accumulated evidence and quantity of eyewitness accounts is persuasive that something is being seen.
The internet is flooded with eyewitness accounts of encounters with this beast. Hair, blood, and even scat samples have been collected and analyzed over the years. Hundreds of plaster casts of footprints have been made. I'm speaking, of course, of Bigfoot, the superstar of cryptozoology. What's that, Franny? Well, of course, I was speaking figuratively. There's more than one Bigfoot. In fact, there may be thousands roaming the forest of North America, including Georgia.
The Salish tribe of the Pacific Northwest refer to these creatures as Saskets. The word became anglicized sometime in the 1930s and became Sasquatch. In Georgia, the Cherokee called them Nun-Onui, translated as Stone Man, and Kelek Kudli, translated as Hairy Savage. To Native Americans, there is no doubt about the existence of these beings. They are depicted in artworks side by side with bears, eagles, and other wildlife. Native Americans do believe that Bigfoot have special abilities that allow them to move between our world and another. Some eyewitness accounts suggest that Bigfoot may be much more than an undiscovered ape or the missing link. Floating orbs of light are often seen in their company. UFOs as well, and sometimes footprint tracks simply end in the middle of an empty field. Accounts of Georgia Bigfoot date back to the 1800s with tales of the swamp ape inhabiting the Okefenokee. There are many reports of wild men killing livestock and harassing residents of North Georgia through the 30s and 40s. Some of these reports state that these wild men were wearing remnants of ragged clothing. In 1974, near Norcross, several Bigfoot-like creatures were seen by a small group of teenagers. The teens were building a fort in a swampy creek bottom near their neighborhood. At first, they heard loud screams. Then the sound of heavy footsteps running towards them caused them to flee. Over the next few weeks, bare footprints were found in the area, some large, while others were small, like a child's. A 7-foot-tall, skinny, hairy creature was seen near the edge of the woods. The top of the head was cone-shaped, known as a sagittal crest to Bigfoot investigators. The creature's wide hips led the observers to believe that the creature was female. Perhaps the shrill calls heard in the woods was the creature calling to its children. Recent sightings can be roughly divided into two categories, the deciding criteria being territory. Witnesses spot a creature peering in a window. Lurking at the edge of the woods. Or sometimes sprinting across a highway. Whether searching for food or simple curiosity, Bigfoot encroaches on mankind's territory. Lengthier encounters occur when we venture deep into the woods, into Bigfoot territory. Often these encounters are related by experienced hunters and hikers who are unlikely to misidentify bears. Recently, a solo hiker had a terrifying encounter in the forest of Dawson County. He had just begun to hike the Appalachian Trail at Amicalola Falls. Over the course of 24 hours, he claims to have been stalked by two auburn-haired Bigfoot. At one point, one of the creatures toppled a sizable tree that fell near where he was resting. The experience frightened him to such a degree that he abandoned his months-long, carefully planned excursion, and he returned to California. Sightings of Bigfoot continue today. Expedition Bigfoot, located in Cherry Log, Georgia, post recent sightings to their Facebook page. The museum contains many Bigfoot artifacts from around the world, including footprint casts discovered in Georgia. The forests of Georgia are beautiful, especially this time of year. Get outside, breathe fresh air, but be vigilant of your surroundings. Keep your eyes wide open. You never know what you might see. And now we turn our attention from the shadowy forest and the depths of the murky rivers and focus our attention to the skies. UFOs. The largest wave of UFO sightings in the U.S. occurred in the autumn of 1973. Hundreds of reports from credible witnesses poured into police stations around the country. UFOs made the newspaper headlines nationwide, including the Atlanta Constitution. On August 30th, silent, multicolored lights appeared in the skies over southern Georgia. Throughout the night, the lights traveled to Macon and points north, including Gwinnett County. Most UFO sightings fall into two categories: daytime sightings of unusual metallic craft or nighttime sightings of various colored lights. The lights and craft perform with speeds and maneuvers that would be impossible for conventional aircraft. In 1972, investigator J. Allen Hynek established a series of categories for classifying UFO reports. Close encounters of the first kind involve visual sightings of craft and or lights in the sky. Close encounters of the second kind involve events in which UFOs cause physical effects. These may include physiological effects on the witness, such as dizziness, paralysis, or a feeling of heat or cold. Physical effects may also include traces left behind by the UFO, such as landing marks or scorched earth. Close encounters of the third kind involve animated entities, whether humanoid, robot, or something far stranger. When most people think of aliens, the image of the Greys come to mind, beings short in stature with large heads, enormous almond-shaped eyes, and questionable motives. This image was popularized by Whitley Strieber's best-selling book, Communion. Communion is about close encounters of the fourth kind, or abduction. Before this landmark book, witnesses were encountering aliens of all shapes and sizes, some of which were truly bizarre. In 1955, near Stockton, Georgia, a couple from Ohio were driving along Highway 129 in their Oldsmobile. Highway 29 was a desolate, deserted road. It was 3:30 a.m. on the morning of July 3rd. Mrs. Simmons was driving while her husband slept in the passenger seat. Suddenly, her high beams flashed on 4 objects ahead in the road. At first, she thought they were animals, but when she drew near, she saw 4 humanoid beings. They were 3 to 4 feet tall. Their legs were short, their arms disproportionately long. Their heads were round, with large eyes that gave off a reddish light. Their mouths were tiny and lipless, but the oddest thing about their appearance was their ridiculously long noses, bent like cartoon witches. Long green capes and helmets added to their odd appearance. As the Simmons car drew near, one of the beings stepped out of the way to allow it to pass. Mrs. Simmons noticed that the other beings didn't move, although one had its long arms raised over its head. Its fingers were capped with long claws. Mrs. Simmons stomped the accelerator and screamed, waking her husband. Her husband wanted to circle back, but she absolutely refused.
UFO witnesses have long been the butt of jokes by the news media, who rarely take the subject seriously. This may change now that the U.S. government has admitted that they do have programs in place to study the phenomena. The government does take the subject seriously. Perhaps this is a sign that full UFO disclosure is imminent.
Strange things are experienced by ordinary people more frequently than you might think. Fear of ridicule prevents many from sharing their experiences. It's more than likely that someone you know has a strange tale to tell. Yes, Franny? He says there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. Quite right. What a clever clown.